Hey everyone, my name is Ben Consoli. I am a director and owner of BC Media Productions, and this is the Go Creative Show, the show dedicated to creative professionals in the video production, filmmaking, television, and music industries. Today we discuss all the news from IBC 2016 with Matthew Allard from newsshooter.com. We share the latest lens, lighting, camera, and gear announcements that you need to know about. The Go Creative Show is supported by our friends at Kessler, making innovative tools for filmmakers. Visit them at KesslerCrane.com. Rule Boston Camera, buy, rent, create at Rule.com. Newsshooter.com, essential news for real-world shooters. Shutterstock.com. Hedge for Mac, the fastest way to back up media. And PremiumBeat.com. Premium, royalty-free music and sound. So IBC is one of those events that I really want to go to all the time. Every year I say, I really got to get there. Because first of all, it's in Amsterdam. And second of all, it has all the latest news in the production industry. Great new gear and announcements. And it's just a very exciting show. But the fall is extremely busy for my company, BC Media Productions. And it's so hard to get out there. And that is why I don't go there. But actually, along those lines, what we're doing here at BC Media Productions is documented pretty well on my Instagram. So if you guys want to check that out, this is not an Instagram of family photos and what I'm eating and cute puppies. No, this is all gear all the time. It's what we're lighting with, what we're shooting with, the people behind the scenes. So it's a great resource for those of you guys that are interested in that type of stuff. And I've also been posting a lot of stories on Instagram as well. So check it out, Instagram.com/Ben Consoli, BenConsoli. So Matt Allard has been on the show a million times. We love having him on. He's from newsshooter.com. And he and I are going to talk about all the IBC news. He has firsthand experience with many of these things, touching it, feeling it, using it on the floor of IBC. So he's a great resource for that. But before we get there, have to mention a couple things. One, Rule Boston Camera is the place to go to purchase and rent all of your production equipment. We talk about them all the time. And what I love about them is you can buy, you can rent, but you can also learn. And if you go to their site, rule.com, R-U-L-E.com, there's a big button there on the right-hand side for Learn. And what this is their series of learning lab and pub nights, which are fantastic and they're free. And you can learn about all sorts of things. For instance, coming up Thursday, September 22nd, it's an event called Introduction to the New VariCam LT, and everybody wants to know about this new VariCam. It's from 5 p.m. to 7, and it's free. And on Wednesday, September 28th, Canon updates with the C300 Mark II, Log 3, and Servo 18 to 80. So all of the new things from Canon you'll be able to learn about and experience at 10 a.m. to 12 on Wednesday, September 28th. Now, these events are free, but they take place in Boston. So if you can't make it to Boston, don't worry, because they post all of their events on their Vimeo page shortly after, and you can get there also at rule.com, R-U-L-E.com. And lastly, Hedge for Mac. We love these guys, and so important. What they do is so important. Hedge for Mac is the fastest app for importing and backing up media in OS X. It has an extremely simple interface, but it's very powerful, and it's built with photo, video, and audio in mind because you can import multiple sources to multiple destinations at the same time. It's really fast. It's faster than the Finder, and it's optimized for files 100 megabytes or larger. And let's face it, that's what we are really using here. You know, I love these guys, and I use them on every single project that I shoot. I'm often doing my own DIT work, so I want to make sure that when I back up a card, it's being done correctly, you know, because you give the card back to your camera operators and they're going to format them. So you really have to know that everything is backed up correctly, and you will have that peace of mind with Hedge for Mac. So here's the deal. They do have a free version, but I cannot stress this enough. You have to get the full version. It's $100, but it is worth every cent. Go Creative Show listeners get a deal, though. You get 20% off if you go to hedgeformac.com/Go Creative Show. You get a 20% discount, and I strongly suggest you take advantage of that because why not? Hedge for Mac, hedgeformac.com/Go Creative Show. Take advantage of that 20% off and start using it. You will love it. All right, it's time for our spotlight. Matt Allard. Aside from being an accomplished cinematographer and visual storyteller, Matthew Allard, ACS, is an editor of newsshooter.com and travels the world covering news and announcements from the production industry. Matt is here today to discuss the recent IBC show in Amsterdam, and we talk all about the lighting, lensing, and gear you need to know about, including the Canon C700, Lupo LED super panels, G-Tech's new partnership with Atomos, and 360 VR streaming, and much, much more. So where to begin? So much stuff. There's cameras, there's lenses, there's lighting. Where do you want to start? I mean, why don't we start at the Canon C700, which seems to be a big news story from this year and looks kind of cool. Can you talk to us a little bit about it?
Yeah, sure. The C700 was announced just before the start of IBC, and IBC was the first time it was actually shown in the flesh. Now, I guess a lot of people have read about it online and seen differing opinions.
Yeah.
I'll come out and say it. I think it's actually probably a pretty good camera. I think the problem is, though, it's probably 2 to 3 years late.
Mm-hmm.
If Canon had have introduced this camera 3 years ago, I think it would have been very popular. I think now it's up against very established competition. You've already got the Vericam LT 35. You've got the Arri Mirror, you've got the Sony F5, F55, and if you have a look at the specifications of the Canon camera, it really doesn't offer you any big and vast improvements, over something, say, like the F55, which is almost a 4-year-old camera now. So it's pretty hard to see how people are going to run out and spend the money buying that camera. I mean, I'm sure they're going to sell some, but I don't think it's going to be as popular as Canon maybe hopes, I think, at that sort of price range.
And I remember a couple years back when you and I were talking on the NAB floor about the C300 Mark II, saying the same thing. It's a little late. It's a little expensive. Like, what is going on over there? It seems like that's the new thing for Canon.
Well, I'm not really sure. I think Canon has sort of followed their path that they normally go down, which is exactly the same as the still photography version of that. We're seeing new models only coming out every 3 to 4 years, and that's very difficult to try and keep up with the market now, because you've got companies like Sony and stuff that are literally releasing cameras almost every 6 months. So if you wait 3 years, the technology changes, and if you're going to bring something out, you really need to bring something out that offers something different or has a lot more functionality or features than your competition. And unfortunately, it looks like with Canon is that they're bringing out something that's competitive with their competition, but it doesn't exceed it. And people have already invested into this, the infrastructure of wherever they may have gone, whether it's Sony or Arri or Panasonic. So, I don't know. And I'm not sure what's going on with Canon over there. They sort of almost have forgotten the video market to a certain extent. I'm not saying that they are purposely doing that, but I think they sort of need to have a good hard look at what they're doing and keep up with their competition and what's happening in the market.
I agree. It makes me a little bit nervous, but then you look at the footage from the C300 Mark II and it looks beautiful, and you're thinking, well, what's it all about really? Is it about just quality images, good cameras, even if it is maybe a little bit late, maybe if it is a little bit too expensive? I mean, they're putting out good quality stuff, and maybe that's the most important thing. I don't know.
Absolutely.
It's tough.
I think end of the day, you're right there. It does come down to image quality and what the person ultimately wants to use and what they're happy with. I think we're sort of jumping to a few conclusions here. No one's actually shot with one properly yet and seen what the results can be. So it may well be that once the camera is out there and more people get their hands on it, the reaction might still change slightly. But it's going to be a hard pill to swallow for someone to spend sort of up to $40,000 on a camera that doesn't have a prestige brand name like Arri or something written on the side of it, and that's going to be the big challenge for Canon.
So let's talk about lenses. There's quite a few news from Tokina, news from Cooke, Leica, but why don't we start with Sigma?
Yeah, IBC actually was a huge show for new lenses, and we're seeing this push now for more affordable cinema lenses, whether they be zooms or primes, coming into the market. There's definitely a big need with all these cheaper options now there out in the market, like your FS5s, FS7s, C300s, etc. So a lot of the manufacturers, and including some new manufacturers, are jumping into making cinema lenses now, which is good for everybody because it's bringing prices down, and we're seeing several companies, making a foray for the first time. And one of those is Sigma. Just about everybody is probably using their 18 to 35 and their 50 to 100, and also their Art Series primes have been extremely popular with video shooters. And up until now, there's been the only options for a cinemized version of that where you had to go through a third party. So there's a lot of lens rehouses, particularly in China, that are rehousing the Sigma lenses and, charging a premium price for them. Well, Sigma has jumped straight in head first, and they've seen a gap in the market here. And they are a very large company based here in Japan, and they have the ability to manufacture glass at probably a more affordable rate than some of their competition. So the new lenses that they released or announced, at least at just prior to IBC, were the 18 to 35 T2, the 50 to 100, the 24 to 35 full frame, and a series of prime lenses, a 20, a 24, a 35, a 50, and an 85.
Wow.
Now, these are all using the same existing stills lens that you would find on their photography counterparts, but they've just been rehoused in new housings, expanded focus throw, gears, all that sort of thing like that. They will come in a variety of different mounts, whether that be EF or E mounts or PL. Now you can change them, but unfortunately that's not something that you can do yourself. You have to take these into a Sigma service facility to get them done, which is probably not ideal for most people if they want to swap them over. But it's a pretty good foray, and I think these lenses are going to be very, very popular. I think if they can get the price to a reasonable amount. I spoke to Sigma's CEO, and he sort of led on that he was hoping that the lenses would be under $5,000 US, and I'd say he's probably talking about the zooms there and not necessarily the primes. I would hope that they can actually, get that price lower than that. I think the rehousing versions are around about $4,500, I think, for about the 18 to 35. So if they can get in around there or slightly under, then these lenses could be very, very popular.
Yeah, I'm looking at them right now on your site. They look very, very interesting. When are they thinking these will be available?
I don't think they're going to be available till early next year at the earliest. So you're going to have to wait a little bit to use them. Unfortunately, we couldn't shoot any vision with these lenses at the show, unlike some of the other manufacturers. But being based in Japan, I'm hoping I will be able to get hold of some of them sooner rather than later, and then actually do a full review about them.
Let's talk about Tokina. They have some cinema primes. They have that 1.6x expander as well. What are your thoughts on their new products?
I really like the Tokina primes. These are something that are brand new for the show. These are not rehoused stills lenses. These are brand new optical designs, and they're specifically made for the cinema lineup. So they announced a 35, a 50, and an 85. Now, these are all full frame lenses, and they're all T1.5. So they are super fast. So all these lenses have a 300-degree focus rotation, 114 mil front diameter. They'll be available in PL, EF, Micro Four Thirds, and E mount. Again, like the Sigma lenses, they won't be able to be switched. Actually, these won't be able to be switched at all. You'll have to buy them in that particular mount that you want them in. Weight-wise, they're quite heavy. They're up around about the 2 kilo mark. I'm not sure what that is in pounds. Prices for these, around $4,000 for the 35 and the 50. The 85 will be slightly more at $4,499. And exciting news, next year, they told me they're going to have an 18 and a 25 full-frame primes that are going to join this set, both T1.5. So very fast for an 18 mil full-frame lens at T1.5. So that's very exciting. I did get a chance to actually shoot with these at IBC, and I was very impressed. Beautifully made, no breathing, nice sharp image. I think these could be a real surprise lens out there, and they could actually compete with lenses that are a lot more expensive.
Yeah, I'm looking at the test footage now, and it looks really nice. So definitely worth checking out on newshooter.com. They look heavy, though. They look big and heavy. Absolutely. I mean, they're a lot heavier than, say, the Sigma lenses. That's for sure. But being full frame, that's the trade-off. If you want full frame and fast, you're going to have to deal with that sort of size. Now, if you're not using full frame lenses, but you want to, Tokina also has the 1.6x expander. that lets you do, no, well, I'll let you say it. It lets you do a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, well, you think of this as almost like a speed booster to a certain extent. So it allows you to put super 35 millimeter lenses on a full frame camera. So you can take a super 35 millimeter lens and then put it on something like a Sony A7S or a 5D Mark II, 3, 4, whatever you have, and use those super 35 millimeter lenses. So it expands the image by 1.6 times. So, I mean, it's a handy type of thing. I didn't really get a chance to test it out much. Now, they do have a PL to PL and a PL to E-mount version of both of these adapters. I'm not sure what the quality is like. Takino actually told me that they're probably better if you stop the lenses down to, say, T3 at least when you use this. But, you know, a good little option. I think it was selling or will be selling for around about the $2,000 mark.
I can definitely see that being valuable if you're traveling, you have smaller lenses, or you just have a whole bunch of APS-C stuff from before and you want to continue using it. Like those little things I think are really helpful to have.
Yeah, if you have an 8K red weapon or whatever with a Vision Vista sensor, I mean, this is a good option because you can take super 35 millimeter lenses that are not designed to cover that sensor and actually make them work.
Anything else in lenses that you want to put out there now that really struck your interest?
Yeah, I think one of the most exciting ones for me that I saw at the show was from Angino. Now they've got a new Super 35 slash full frame, and it's called a Type EZ series zooms. So these are using a very unique sort of system. So what they're doing is it's got an interchangeable rear optics. So what this can do is that you buy a Super 35 millimeter lens. It can obviously only cover a Super 35 sensor, but then you can actually swap out the rear lens element and change it up to VistaVision format or full frame. So this is a really sort of handy feature. So the first one that they had there was a 30 to 90 T2, so very, very fast. And then if you exchange the rear lens group, the lens becomes a 45 to 135 and then drops down to T3. Now these lenses were around about the 2 kilo, which is just under the 5 pound mark. Beautifully made, the sort of quality that you expect from Angino. And the big thing, I guess, with these ones too is the price. I mean, Angino is not a cheap brand, and the Super 35 version of this lens is going to retail for around $10,000 US. And if you buy the lens with the rear element adapter that makes it full frame or cover VistaVision, that'll be $13,500. So the 30 to 90 will start shipping in February or March next year. And there's also a 15 to 40, which is the second series in this lens. That's not going to come a little later till around July 2017. But, a really good system here. You're sort of covering yourself to a certain extent in terms of being able to be covered now for Super 35 and then keep a lens that you can then use later on. If you decide to go to Vision Vista or a new sensor comes out that's full frame. So a really good, affordable option that should be very popular with rental houses, I think.
So let's talk about Zeiss. We have some full-frame Milvis lenses, and we also have a pretty interesting zoom lens here as well. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, Zeiss had a bunch of new lenses that they showed at IBC. Now, the first, as you alluded to, are the full-frame Zeiss Milvis. So there's new versions that are joining the set. There's a 15mm f2.8, an 18mm f2.8, and 135mm f2. So these three new lenses join a series that now consists of 9 lenses. So Zeiss pretty much has you covered, with a consistent look across the focal range there. Now, these are declickless apertures. You can switch between having clicked and declicked. So pretty good for both stills and video use. The 15mm will be priced at $2,700, the 18mm at $2,300, and the 135mm at $2,100. Both these lenses will be available in Canon EF and Nikon F mounts. And the zoom that they announced just prior to IBC is the LWZ3 21 to 100 T2.9 to T3.9. Now, this sort of steps away from Zeiss's philosophy of making full-frame lenses. This one only covers the Super 35 image circle. To do this, they've had to get they've done this for a couple of reasons. 1, for price, and 2, to keep the weight down. So this lens is actually extremely lightweight for its range. It's about 2 kilos, which is pretty good for a zoom. And it's going to retail for around $9,900, which again is pretty cheap. They're sort of aiming this lens at the the FS7 C300 Mark II type sort of crowd as sort of an owner operator lens that you could buy. For $9,900, it's considerably cheaper than their CZ Zoom series, which retails up for around the $20,000 mark.
And they've got some great test footage here. They have a film called The Circle. They have a behind the scenes for it, and
we actually got the shot with this lens as well, and it was I was pretty impressed by the features that were on there. Now moving on to Cooke. Cooke had just previously announced too that they are now making their Mini S4i prime lenses available in new mounts. So they'll be available in Canon EF, Nikon F, Sony E, and Micro Four Thirds. Now this is the first time in a long time that Cooke have made an interchangeable lens system here. These lenses were previously PL only, so it opens up the Cooke look to a whole different market here. And the good thing about these, unlike some of the other lenses that were there, is that they will be able to be user interchanged. So this is great news. So for rental houses in particular, they can now offer the Cooke S4Is, the Mini Cooke S4Is, in a variety of different mounts, and users can swap them out depending on what type of camera they want to use.
Is there any what is the difference between using this particular Cooke lens with a mount that's native to your camera versus getting a PL adapter for your camera? Are you going to find something different about it? Is it going to look better? Is it going to give you more range?
I think it's always better to not use adapters in certain circumstances if you can just put a proper mount on there. You're not really going to get any difference, I don't think, quality image-wise. Their mount's super robust. That was the thing that impressed me. The Canon mount and stuff that they had on there locks in really well. With a heavy sort of prime lens, normally if you use some of the mounts that are out there available in the market, some of them do tend to wobble around a little bit, and be a little bit worried about the lens breaking off when you're using something heavy. But in terms of the look and what you're going to get, you're not going to really get any real difference. It's just a system, basically like Zeiss have done with their CP2s, that just allow the lenses to be used on a variety of cameras.
You also did a story on this Leica M0.8 Cine lens. This is the last thing I was reading as I was calling you, so I don't have a lot of information on it, but I'm curious about it. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, these are based on the Leica M mount series, so they've chosen a variety of different ones. So the whole idea between these is they're not like the Sumilex prime lenses. They're not going to be that expensive. They're not full rehoused cinema versions. They're pretty much basically just the Leica M stills lenses with 0.8 cine gears attached to them. Now the lenses that are going to be available, I think there's 5 all up. So there's a 21mm f1.4, a 24mm f1.4, a 28mm f1.4, a 35 f1.4, and they're also going to have the 50mm 0.95 Noctilux, which is one of the more expensive stills lenses out in the market and widely praised. So the whole idea behind these lenses is they wanted to offer something different. So they're extremely small and lightweight, probably more designed for small cameras where people want to put them on drones or rigs and keep the weight down. The only thing I did find is because they're not rehoused, that the cine gears are very, very close together. So if you were running, say, iris and focus motors on there, for instance, you'd probably have to have them on either side of your camera because there's not a lot of room between the gears. Yeah,
I'm looking at it right now. I mean, just the tip of your thumb is covering both. There's really no space there.
Yeah, which is sort of an interesting move. Yeah. And you're paying just a small premium over the top of the regular photography versions of these lenses to get the gears on there. So yeah, but an interesting move from Leica.
All right. So let's talk about this Sony 18-110 because I know it wasn't necessarily what people expected.
Well, we saw previously, I think, I don't know whether it was a year ago or something like that, the 28 to 135 that they announced, a full frame servo driven lens that, had a pretty good range, but a lot of people were complaining that it really wasn't wide enough for APS-C sized sensors. It was good on a full frame A7S, but the 28 just wasn't wide enough. Well, Sony announced another sort of servo-driven lens called the 18 to 110. This is a f4 PZ E-mount lens. Again, full frame, looks almost identical to the 28 to 135 lens that was launched alongside the FS7. Now, the difference between this lens is it uses the same hybrid mechanical fly-by-wire focus system, but by pulling back on the collar, the focus range, you can engage a mechanically linked manual focus. So this makes it a lot different from the 28 to 135, which used that fly-by-wire focus mechanism, which really wasn't good for video work and wasn't reliable. This system changes that, and by pulling back on that focus ring, you can now enable a proper sort of mechanical linked manual focus, which makes a big difference. The only downside to doing this is that the minimum focus distance is just under 1 meter, so it's not really good. To get it closer than that, you actually have to switch back to the fly-by-wire manual focusing mechanism to make that work. This is not going to be a particularly cheap lens. I think people were expecting, a price that was probably similar to the 28 to 135. But this is now going to be, I think, around about bit over the $4,000 mark, I think, from memory. Don't quote me on that because I could be wrong, but it's fairly expensive for what it is. So it'll be interesting to see what the uptake of this lens is by people, because it's going to compete head to head basically with the Canon 18 to 80 T4.4, which is shipping very, very shortly. Around about the same sort of price, maybe a little bit more expensive.
Anything else with lenses before we move on? Because there's so much lighting, too, that I want to talk to you about. But I don't want to leave lenses until we are sure we've got it covered.
We were talking earlier about the lens rehouses who are rehousing some of the Sigma lenses. So, the companies like that are going to struggle now because of Sigma now offering their own cine conversions of these lenses. So GL Optics, who was a popular modifier of the Sigma 18 to 35 and now the 50 to 100, I believe, has actually gone ahead and made a PL cinemized version of the Zeiss Otis Primes. So these are going to be available in 28, 55, and 85. The Zeiss Otis lenses have a very good reputation as being some of the best stills lenses in the world, and they actually, outperform some of the more expensive cinema prime lenses. So there has been a need for this. Nobody has sort of gone ahead and done a PL mount on these lenses before. So it's interesting to see GL Optics come ahead and do this. Now, it's going to be expensive, these lenses, so it's going to cost around $8,000.
Oh, wow.
For one of these lenses. So you're paying a little bit of a premium to get it converted. I mean, they're around about the $4,500, $5,000 mark, or a little bit more just to buy the stills lens. So you can, if you want, supply your own and they will rehouse it. But yeah, $8,000, it sounds like a lot of money, but if you're getting something with the sort of performance of a Master Prime, for example, then, these may be a pretty good option.
Oof. Though that's a rental, if you can even rent it. But, oh my God, that's a scary price. But I bet the images look amazing.
Yeah, you can't really go too wrong. I didn't see them in person myself, so I'm not sure about the housings and the sort of quality of that. But the optics are going to stay exactly the same. And I have shot with the stills versions of the Otis before, and they are a spectacularly sharp and beautiful lens.
Let's talk about lighting. So much here. Stuff from Aladdin, stuff from Quasar Science, Arri, it just goes on and on. Where do you want to begin?
Oh, okay. I'm going to go throw you a curveball there, and then I'm going to go to a company called Lupo, which is an Italian.
Oh yes, company. This looks amazing. The super panel.
Yeah, I actually used one today on a shoot that I just came from. So these were interesting. I previously tested some Lupo lights before, and they were not bad, but I gave them some suggestions on how to improve. And this year at the show, they had what looked like a traditional 1x1 LED panel available in bicolor or a 5600K version. Now, what they've done is they've incorporated a fan in there, and I don't know what they've done internally, but the company claims that these have an output of more than 21,000 lux at a distance of 1 meter.
Now that's compare that though to like a traditional 1x1. How much better is that?
But to put that in perspective, if you have something like, say, a Light Panels Astra, which is no slouch, it's got a pretty good output. I believe at about a distance of 1 meter, that puts out around about 7,000 lux. So this is 3 times the output of that light. And it's even higher than the Dito Fellini Turbo, which I tested at NAB, which I think had around about 17,500 lux at 1 meter. So very impressive. I haven't been able to test them just yet because I literally just got back from IBC, but from looking at them in person, there's no doubt that they certainly do have an extremely strong output and very reasonably priced. I believe the 5600K version will retail for around about €900, and the bicolor I think slightly more at about 1,100. So very, very good value. So it'll be interesting to see how they stack up when I test them. I'll definitely compare them against other 1x1 panels.
It has a fan on it, but you can shut the fan off and you get, what does it bump it down, like half the
and you
power?
can run these all off camera batteries. And I mean, I don't know the point of why you would actually have to turn the fan off because very much like the Light Panels Astra versions, you can't hear that.
They're quiet.
That fan at all. So I mean, very interesting. And they have a range of accessories coming for them, barn doors and diffusers. So one to look out for, I think.
Now, these Light Panels has something. It's not really new, but the Lycos bicolor lights are now in a flight kit. I love stuff like this because I get all excited about the small, compact packages that are easy to fly with. I like small cameras. I like small lenses. I don't know. I like having these little small packages, and the flight kit is something that I'm very interested in. Did you check that out? Was that your story? I can't remember.
Yeah, I did check these out, and I'm just trying to find them. Where is it? It should be one of the most recent postings, actually.
Yeah, it was newer.
Hold on. I saw it very recently. I might want to skip straight over the top of it. Here it is. Found it. Okay, good to go.
So did you get a chance? I think this is your story. What are your thoughts on it?
Another kit from Light Panels. They've been doing quite a few over the years with different types of fixtures. There's not a lot of all-in-one kits out there. So, while there may be better individual lighting solutions, for certain projects and certain people, a flight kit like this makes an awful lot of sense because you're getting everything that you need in the one 1510 Pelican case, portable, easier to take. So you get 3 fixtures, 3 light stands, 3 Anton Bauer batteries. So you can power these off batteries, and they have a very low power draw, I believe, so you can run them for a long time. The whole kit weighs in at 12 kilos. The lights only draw 23 watts. Very light. They're about 0.5 kilograms each. Bicolor, a decent throw. I think they have the sort of output that's about equivalent to that of the original 1x1 bicolor panels, which is no slouch, but probably looking at about 1,500 lux or something similar to that. A good all-in-one solution. Available, I think, to purchase now for just under $1,900 from memory. So for people who are traveling, small single crews who need a compact solution, not a bad option.
Absolutely. That's the type of stuff that, I do that. I do that type of stuff a lot, and I just kind of throw my stuff in a suitcase. So having a flight kit like this would be really valuable to me, and I'm sure some people listening as well. I'm very interested in, what is this here? The Vizio, which in the headline, it's potentially a low-cost Arri Sky panel. It looks very, very interesting, and I can't remember if this is your story or not, but do you want to talk about that one?
Vizio is a Taiwanese lighting company. They've been around for quite some time. They had quite a few new products on their stand, but one of them was called the Pasolight S100 or S200. Obviously, the S200 is bigger than the S100. Now, these are fully tunable LED lights, so a color adjustable from 2,800 Kelvin up to 10,000. Vizio claim there's no color shift across that Kelvin range. I can't independently verify that, but that's just what they're saying. The smaller S100, which looks more sort of like a larger 1x1 panel, can be run off a V-Lock camera battery. The larger S200 needs mains power. because it just draws too much current. Both lights have a really wide beam angle, so 120 degrees. So a lot of the traditional, say, 1x1 panels and things are maybe down around the 40 or 50 degree mark. So this is good for lighting up large spaces. And they had a really nice app that you could run on iOS or Android devices. And you could actually control everything remotely and wirelessly. So you could control the dimming, you could control turning the light fixture on and off, you could change the color temperature, or you could also, like the ARRI Sky panels, create just about any type of color you want by adjusting the hue on there. So you can create a whole bunch of different colors, really useful. Now, the only thing is these are quite heavy, these lights, sort of getting up there around ARRI Sky panel weight. The S100 weighs in at 3.5 kilos, which is, reasonably heavy. The large S200, 6.5 kilos. The difference that these lights are, well, the big difference I could tell between these and, say, like the Sky panels is they don't put out nearly the output of an ARRI Sky panel. The S100, which is sort of the equivalent of, say, an SC30 Sky panel, could only put out 2,335 lux at a distance of 1 meter. The S200, again, a bit over 4,000 lux. If you compare this to, say, the SC60, which is sort of what it's up against, that light can put out well over 10,000. So that's the big difference. But again, the ARRI Sky panels are very expensive. These are supposed to be shipping towards the end of the year, but there's currently no indication of pricing. But being from Vizio, I expect them to be, reasonably affordable.
Well, let's talk about Sky panels because there's some news there as well with the S120C and their remote, which seems pretty interesting.
Yeah, ARRI has introduced yet another light in the Sky panel series. So they had the SC30 and the SC60, and now they've got the S120. Now the S120 isn't available in remote phosphor like the SC30 and the SC60 are. This is only available in the LED fully color tunable version. Now, it's twice as long as the SC60, so it's a rather long fixture. So it's very, you can make it vertical or horizontal, and it's going to be very wide or very high depending on the orientation. Very similar weight and power consumption to the SC60. It's going to be slightly more expensive than that. I think around about the $6,390 mark. So it's not for the faint-hearted. It's a pretty expensive light, and once you start buying the accessories, that adds up a lot. And also, what they were showing, which is something new for all the Sky Panel series, was a wide remote control that attaches via a long sort of USB cable. So if you've got these up high or in a spot that's not easy to reach the controller, you can remotely change everything on the ground. A little strange that they decided to go with USB rather than wireless. I guess that wireless functionality isn't built into the Sky panels, so they've had to come up with another solution. Again, not a bad option though. I think for people who are probably going to be using these lights in studios rather than out in the field.
Yeah, definitely seems like a studio light. Photon beard. This looks pretty interesting. Snap-in phosphor panels, almost like you're snapping in fluorescent tubes. What are your thoughts on this one?
Photon beard have been around since the 1880s, if you can believe that. They used to actually make like gas lights using gas lamps.
Oh, wow.
So they have a lot of experience, and they're arguably the inventor of the original redhead. That's how far back they go. So they've always come up with good solutions, and their latest one is called the Highlight LED. Now, these are more orientated towards studio lighting than in the field lighting. So they're using remote phosphor panels. Now, what's quite interesting and different between these lights compared to most other remote phosphor lights that you see is that they're using these sort of louvered panels. Now, the panels actually just snap in against the backplate. And what's unique about this is you can just mix and match the various color temperatures in the one lighting fixture. So instead of having to slide in a panel to go 3200 or 5600 or whatever you can actually mix and match these very much like you would do with the old Kino flows, where you could interchange 3200 and 5600K tubes to create sort of like a 43 or 4500K balance. So really nice lights. Again, very heavy though. There's 4 different sizes from the HL90 all the way up to the HL360. Weight goes from 3.5 kilos all the way up to 10 kilos. The quality of the light looked really nice. Prices, the small one starts at, I think, around about $1,300. The largest one up to about $4,650. But a good alternative if you're looking at lighting up a studio.
And now I know this one is Dan's story, but did you get a chance to check out the Quasar Science LED Kino replacements?
No, I didn't, but I could probably still talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, it looks really cool. It's they basically looks like they're fluorescent tubes that are really LED, but then they also have these interesting practical lights too.
Yeah, Quasar Science have been building these LED lamps for quite some time now, and they sort of look like the old Kino Flow tubes that you would put in those type of fixtures. So they've been available in 120 volts for quite some time in the American market, but now they've made versions that will work in 240 volt markets such as Europe and Australia and other countries like that. Now the tubes are available in different lengths: 1 foot, 2 foot, 4 foot, 6 foot, and even 8 foot. They can be adapted to take DTAP battery power, so you can power them via mains individually on the tubes. Very high CRI, the claimed of over 95. There's a color adjustable version that goes from 2,000 to 6,000, where you can actually adjust the color temperature on the actual tube itself. Not super cheap. The 1 foot version is $145, $500 up to the 8 foot version. And they also made these nice little small light bulbs that are, very good for practicals if you wanted to take them on and put them in. Available in 12 and 6 watt versions, available in different color temperatures as well. And they range from around $19 to about $25 each. But a good option if you're going somewhere and you want to have a high CRI practical, LED replacement lamp. And they're also dimmable, I believe, if you attach something to them, which is very handy if you're taking them onto a set or using them out somewhere on location.
You are listening to the PremiumBeat.com Song of the Week, and also one of my favorites on the site, and it's a brand new one. It's called You Got This by Dan Phillipson. PremiumBeat.com is where to go for all of your royalty-free music and sound effects. They have a great website where you can access a collection of thousands of royalty-free tracks. Thousands! For as low as $49 each. And you don't just get the one song for the $49. You get versions. You have loop sets. You have sometimes a lot of these songs have a 15, a 30, a 1 minute cut down of the main song, and then these great loop sets. So you have a lot of flexibility in your edit to make it fit perfectly. And that's just one of the many reasons why I use PremiumBeat.com all the time for every project. I love that site. I know you will too. So get over there, PremiumBeat.com. So let's talk about Kessler for a moment, shall we? The Kessler Shutter Dolly. This looks very cool. It's the latest innovation in camera dollies and finally provides filmmakers with performance and versatility dollies in its class have always lacked until now. It's very versatile because you can use the Shutter Dolly on standard speed rails. So you don't have to buy additional things to put this on. It uses standard speed rails. And the best part is it can be operated manually or in conjunction with Kessler's motion control solutions. They have many of them, and they're all great. But the Cine Drive and the Second Shooter Plus are two great options that you can use with the Shutter Dolly. You can get more information at KesslerCrane.com, and really what I suggest you do is go there, look up the product, Kessler Shutter Dolly, and just watch the video. They have a great video that explains what it does and how it works and the types of shots you can get with it. And it's all there, KesslerCrane.com. And lastly, Shutterstock.com. I love these guys, and I use them all the time. Shutterstock.com has nearly 3 million royalty-free video clips. Many of them are 4K. But the best part about it is it's not the quantity, it's the quality. Because when you're doing a piece and you need to put in stock footage, you want that stock footage to be as good, if not better, than what you have already shot. You spent a lot of time and money making sure that your footage looks great, and you want something just as good. And that's what you'll find at Shutterstock. So you go there, you type in whatever you want in the search bar, and you're given great footage. Now, what I do, I go there quite often to just look at their collections because they have really well curated collections of videos that are in all these cool themes. Like they have aerials and urban time lapse and around Latin America's one. One of my favorites is director's cuts. So there's shots that are inspired by famous directors. And they're really well curated. So you don't even really need to search at all. You just go to the collections, find what you're looking for, buy it and love it and use it. And their pricing is great. You can buy video packs so you can save a whole bunch of money. For instance, you can, instead of buying 25 individual HD videos, you can buy the pack and you end up saving $250. So why not do that? But there's so much there, and I strongly encourage you go. Shutterstock.com. They also have photos and music as well. But there's so much there. Shutterstock.com. All right, it's time to move on to the remaining part of our interview with Matt Allard, talking about all things IBC 2016. So let's talk about G Technology because they have they have a CFast 2 reader, and really what they seem to be doing is offering caddies for almost everything, so that you can very easily use whatever you're working on and go right into their EV series.
G-Tech always have new products at every single show. So the big announcement for IBC was that they've actually partnered with Atomos. So they've made these sort of master caddy drives, as you were just alluding to before. So you can take HDD or SSD drives and now put them in the Atomos enclosure that goes into the back of recorders like the Inferno or the Flame or the Shogun, and then you can actually take these out and insert them into a G-Tech master caddy reader, which has a USB-C port in addition to a SATA port, and you can just put these straight into a G-Tech EV drive, which a lot of people are using. This is really handy. It sort of eliminates cables and having to carry around adapters. The drives range from $100 for the master caddy. That's got a 1 terabyte spinning HDD, $150 for a 256 gig SSD, $150 for a 256 gig, $250 for a 512, and $350 for a 1 terabyte master caddy 4K SSD. Of course, these drives will obviously work in any other readers. They don't have to go into the G-Tech EV dock. And so they're about to ship now. The other product they announced was a new CFast 2.0 reader, which can take any type of CFast 2.0 card and also lets you use it inside an EV series docking station. So whether that's just a 1 or 2 slot docking station or one of the far bigger ones that has up to 8 slots, the CFast 2.0 reader has both a SATA port as well as a USB 3 slot for connecting straight to your computer. They are started to ship now, and they are available for $100.
I love what they've been doing with the EV series, and it's good to see that they're continuing to support it. Because you don't want to change all of your hard drives over to a new system only to have the company change formats. They seem to really be sticking with this EV series, and I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, the dock makes a lot of sense, really, instead of having to have, looking around for multiple adapters and things when you get back from your shoot or whatever, and being able to take that media or, direct from what you've been shooting with and just insert it straight into the dock and then start working on it straight away, is a big time saver.
Now, the X-Rite color checker isn't new. I mean, there's been color checkers forever. But I really like the compatibility with Resolve. I like the compatibility with Final Cut Pro 10 via Color Finale. And I just want to take kind of a minute on your thoughts on that. And then also, why is this good practice to use a color checker?
This is a really simple solution for getting colors, right out in the field. So it's a very simple philosophy. You have one of these color checker charts with you out on location or wherever you're shooting. You hold it up, you just roll a second of it. That's all you need. So when you get back to the edit, this will work in programs, as you said, like DaVinci Resolve, Color Finale, in Final Cut Pro. And all you have to do is find that one frame or second of vision that you've got there, bring that color checker chart up. You do a drop-down menu and you choose that correct color checker chart that you used. You line up the colors using your mouse, and then you just basically click OK. And it basically references back the colors. So the colors that you were shooting out in the field that are on that chart that may not look correct get referenced back to the actual chart. So it's very easy to get a really good base start for grading material.
Now, is this a replacement for a lookup table? Or like how does this work with lookup tables if you're shooting S-Log or Canon Log or whatever?
It's sort of both ways. I mean, it's not really it's not really a LUT in any way. It's more designed to get the colors completely accurate. So if you're shooting something out in the field and the color chart might be showing you something that's incorrect because you haven't balanced correctly, for instance, or the lighting wasn't obvious, or you're shooting log material and you're not using a LUT. By lining up the colors, you're basically transforming the image back to sort of putting it in line with what the colors actually are supposed to look like. So that's the sort of rationale rationale for doing that.
It's a simple thing, but it's important. And I have the little X-Rite color checker. I throw it in my bag. I love it. And, it gives you that accuracy when you need it, especially if you're running and gunning and going really, really fast. Sometimes you just don't have the time to make everything perfect on set. So this is helpful in post to balance it all out.
And if you're not really into color grading and you don't have a lot of experience, this is a very easy way of getting a really good result very quickly.
And they're not that expensive. So I definitely suggest you check it out. We'll, of course, put a link to the story in the show notes. Where to go? Let's talk about the Small HD 13-inch HDR studio monitor. They've had other sizes, but now a 13-inch. I'm curious what your thoughts on that.
13 inches is a really good size. Sometimes if you're working by yourself or you're working in a small crew, you don't have the capacity to take out a bigger monitor and set it up. And if you're using a 5-inch or 7-inch sized on-camera monitor, sometimes that's just not quite big enough if you have a client there or something and you want them to be able to see something that's just a little bit bigger. So I think 13 inches is a really good size. It's compact enough that you can travel with it and bring it up. So another good move from Small HD.
And how are you liking the HDR monitors, to begin with? Are you seeing a lot of them out there on the floor?
Not so many. It's hard to tell. I haven't seen one of the Small HDs actually outside. I've only seen them on the show floor. So it's a bit hard to tell how they'd actually work outside. So it's a bit hard for me to comment on that.
Sure. Well, let's talk about Atomos, because, we did talk about their partnership with G Technologies, which is great, but they've added some raw formats to their Inferno. Any thoughts on this?
Yeah, so the Atomos Shogun Inferno, which is 4K HDMI, Quad SDI 4K 60p version of the Shogun Flame. So this is set to ship at the end of September for just under, I think, about $2,000 US. Features the same 7-inch 1500 nit hybrid HDR monitor. They can show around 10 stops of dynamic range using the Atom HDR software. Now, while the recorder will ship with the standard recording options already available on the existing Shogun models, something that will become free by the end of the year will be a firmware update that will enable raw recording from ARRI cameras, which is, I think, a first for Atomos, as well as from the Panasonic VeriCam LT. So the ARRI RAW, you'll be able to record 16:9 and 4:3 RAW formats to the native ARRI format, straight to an SSD, using the Master Caddy system, which we talked about before. So a bunch of new features there. So the Shogun Inferno, really just sort of an upgraded version, I think, of the Flame. I think some people were probably expecting that they'd be able to still record these raw formats to the Flame. So maybe slightly disappointing for some owners who've already purchased those existing units, because, to record these raw formats now, you're going to have to upgrade to a completely different recorder monitor.
Okay. So in our last couple of minutes here, there's just so much going on, and there's so much on the website, newshooter.com. So you guys should all check that out. But before we go, I'm going to only allow, since there's so much about it, let's do one VR story and one gimbal story, because you can't go to a show nowadays without seeing tons of gimbals and a lot of VR stuff. But we got to limit it to one. So let's start on gimbal. What is the best thing that you've seen, or the most interesting thing you saw at IBC in the gimbal world?
A Korean company called Veravon was showing a prototype of an auto-balancing gimbal. So this is pretty unique, and I haven't seen anything like this before. So this is a brushless gimbal that'll work with cameras up to 8 kilos. So that'll handle things like your Sony FS7, your Canon C300. And what it does, unlike other gimbal systems, is that it automatically balances the whole gimbal setup without you having to do anything. So there's motors on each axis that position the camera. Even when you change a lens or you change from a prime to a zoom, the slightest change and the system automatically compensates for doing that. So this is very much a prototype. Now, Varavon are expected to try and have one available for sale by the end of the year, but we're looking at around the $20,000 US mark.
Oof.
So it's not for the faint-hearted. Now, we didn't actually get to see anybody putting a camera on it from scratch, so I can't really verify how well it works in terms of how quickly you can set this up. I don't think it actually will work on the fly as such. So if you make a change, then it calibrates itself very quickly, but it takes all the guesswork out and you don't have to stuff around on set trying to balance a gimbal. You just simply put the camera on there and you press one button and it does everything for you. So very interesting technology that I think will get filtered down in the next couple of years, and the price will obviously drop, and we're probably likely to see a lot of gimbals with this type of technology built in, in the distant future.
And probably the most interesting part of the video is the guy's hair.
He's David Lynch.
He's got wild, huge hair. So if you have no interest at all in gimbals or how this thing works, it's still worth checking out the video because this guy has fantastic hair. And moving on to our last story is I want to talk a little bit about VR. And I know Teradek has a great new monitor that can also stream 360 video, and you can stitch it on the iPad. And there's just so much here. It looks really cool, and I'm interested in your thoughts.
Yeah, this is something that Teradek originally showed at NAB. They showed an HDMI version of this, and now they've announced an SDI version. So, as you said, it's called the Sphere. So what it's designed to do is to take a whole bunch of camera feeds. Now, it depends on the individual units have 4 inputs, whether they be HDMI or SDI, depending on the model, but you can daisy chain these spheres. So you can have up to 8 cameras come in. And what it does inside is it has some fancy software, and you can actually use a wireless app that Teradek have to actually do a stitch of this material live in real time and look at it in different viewpoints, so you can actually have an idea of what you're doing. The problem with a lot of VR systems is that it's a lot of guesswork. Some of the rigs, you just set them up and it's basically blind luck at what you're looking at. This way you can actually monitor in real time, and if you connect to an external internet source, what this can also do is it can live stream your 360 VR videos, in real time. So if you have an event on or something going, you can actually send a link out to people, and people can tune in and watch this in real time. Another nice addition, it had a 3.5mm jack in there, so you can actually add external audio or some type of feed. So if you want to send sound over there, as well. So, a really cool system. And I think the HDMI one is shipping and the SDI will start shipping soon. I think they're around about $3,000 US for the HDMI version, $4,000 for the SDI, and I think it's an additional $1,000 if you want to do the live streaming, because that requires you buying a license. So
many great stories. Of course, the ones we talked about here, I'll put links in the show notes on gocreativeshow.com. But really, just go to newsshooter.com. It's all there, and you'll see all of the things we talked about and more. And you guys are continuously releasing stuff in the upcoming few days and weeks, so you can definitely keep checking that out as well.
Yeah, and I apologize to any of the listeners out there if I've made any factual errors on any of this stuff. I'm struggling to remember every single thing. So if you want to find out the actual facts, best to go to newsshooter.com and look at the articles yourself.
Yeah, don't get mad at us if we mess it up, people. I mean, come on.
Well, you can get mad at me. Get mad at me. Don't get
okay. Well, don't get mad at me. Get mad at Matt. That's fine. Matt, thank you so much for being on the show, and we'll have you back to talk about all sorts of stuff as the news in this production industry keeps rolling out. Newsshooter.com is on top of it, and we love having you here to talk about all that stuff.
My pleasure. Speak to you next time.
Matthew Allard, ACS, thank you so much for being on. Check out his site, MatthewAllardACS.com, MatthewAllardacs.com. I'll put it in the show notes, but you guys know where to go. He's been on the show 1,000 times. Of course, I want to thank Matt Russell for mixing, mastering, and making the show sound so good. You can find him online at gainstructure.com and on Twitter at gainstructure. And while you're on Twitter telling Matt how fantastic he is, head over to Go Creative Show and let us know what you think of the show. Send us guest suggestions on Twitter at Go Creative Show. Of course, I want to thank our sponsors, Hedge for Mac, Rule Boston Camera, Kessler Crane, News Shooter, Shutterstock, and PremiumBeat.com. Without these people, the show would not exist. And lastly, please do check out the Instagram, my Instagram, at Ben Consoli on Instagram. I put all sorts of behind-the-scenes photos. What are we shooting on? What are we lighting with? It's all there. It's all for you. We'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.